The following is brought to you by Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. TotalSeal.com. Hello and welcome to another edition of Hidden Horsepower presented by Total Seal Piston Rings. I'm Joe Castello, and we've got another great episode for you. These Hidden Horsepower podcasts, always a great time to get together, speak with the legendary engine builders, the rock stars of the industry, the pioneers of new technology, and sometimes the young guns. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. First up, let's bring on my co-host. He is the Director of Technical Sales at Total Seal Piston Rings, Mr. Keith Jones, all the way from down there in Arizona. How are things going, Keith?
We're doing great. We're busy as all get out. We'll just say, there's, people talk about the economy, things are tight, things are down, it's an election year, all these things. But let me tell you, we ain't seeing it here. It's busier than heck. Everybody wants to go racing and they want to do it now.
I don't want to say, anything that's going to trigger anybody about anything, but I don't know, man. I've been around 51 years and I have never heard the time where people didn't complain about some situation everywhere. Like everything has been perfect for like the last 2 years. Like things have been absolutely perfect. Money is easy and everything's easy. And it's so easy. Even if that was true, I don't think they would say it just to not like jinx it.
Absolutely. They're going to keep that. If they were, like I say, they're borrowing money from a friend to go this weekend. Everything's great, man. We're doing fantastic. So, yeah, I definitely see that slant sometimes.
Now, I want to make sure everybody knows out there that Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, where you get the audio-only version of Hidden Horsepower. And we definitely started as an audio-only podcast. But recently, what we are doing is we're making the shift. Lake has created a YouTube channel for the Hidden Horsepower content, independent of like the tech videos, independent of information about piston rings. So people who are fans of the Hidden Horsepower podcast can start going on there and seeing the early episodes were audio only. Maybe there'd be a logo or some photographs, right? But we are now transitioning to the video/audio format. So welcome to everybody on the Hidden Horsepower YouTube channel. We invite you to subscribe. Please click the bell so you'll always get notifications. Please put comments down in the comment section and share. That's how we grow. Of course, those algorithms out there on YouTube make a big difference. And I apologize for, the way we look. Sorry. Right?
Well, we're getting it going. We're getting started. We're in a whole new thing. We're working our way into the 20th century. We're embracing the technology.
Exactly. We are embracing the technology. All right. So this week's episode is very exciting because I mentioned Young Gun. Talk a little bit about Jay Zucol from Zolko Racing Engines in Pennsylvania. He's 38 years old. And this is what we're always talking about on Hidden Horsepower. The next generation. Now, there's younger people than Jay, but as a business owner, as a engine shop owner, 38 years old, makes me feel like he's in the prime of his life. Why did you think Jay would be a great guest for Hidden Horsepower?
Well, I've known Jay for years, and he's one of these guys that, he's inquisitive. He wants knowledge. He wants to know about, what about this? What can we do better? I'll throw him a package. And, he runs it this year, the next year. What can we do this better? He is one of these guys that wants to always improve the package. How do we make it better? Whether that be an improvement in the ring, or an improvement in the cylinder, an improvement in the lubrication, he wants to do better. We want more. And I love Jay's enthusiasm. I love where he's wanting to go with this thing. And, I've known him from working at other guys' shops. And, we always talk about this on Hidden Horsepower about the young guns coming up and, that transition from employee to owner. And not a lot of guys make that. I mean, here I am working for somebody else all my life. It's the same situation. I've never made that leap, and Jay did. And that takes a lot. That's a big thing to make that leap.
It absolutely does. It takes courage. It takes confidence. And that's what you've got to have to be successful. Not that you don't have courage and confidence. You work at Total Seal. You get to work with Hartford, right? Like, why would you not want to show up?
That can be a challenge in itself sometimes. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
the best way.
I'm going to leave that just floating out there for everybody. All right, let's bring him on the show. Joining us from Pennsylvania in the shop, Zolko Racing Engines, Mr. Jay Zucol. What's up, Jay? Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, super excited. All right. So is Keith easy to work with or hard to work with?
He's awesome to work with. Like you said, I always want to do something maybe outside of the box or something different. And he always listens to what I have to say. And, he'll say, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. We can make that happen. We could do this. We could do that. Maybe. And then maybe he says, yeah, you probably shouldn't do that. That's not necessarily a good idea. And this is why. So it's a really, really good working relationship.
No, very exciting, very exciting. All right, so before we get into interesting things like cylinder surface, ring seal, and what kind of customers you predominantly are servicing out there, what kind of racing engines are you building, and what kind of power you look to make, all those things, interesting stories. I'm sure you've heard the Hidden Horsepower podcast. You know where we go on that, and I'll even ask you for advice for the next generation. Although the gap from the next generation to you is not as much as it is, say, from Keith. Not me, of course.
Hey, the
But,
OG here.
yeah, he is the OG. But you heard him talk a little bit about, you assuming ownership of a shop, wanting to do this, wanting to work, taking the risk, all that. Tell us how you got here. Like, where did you start? How did you first get the interest in all things mechanical, and kind of give us your origin story to the point where you were able to assume the shop.
All right. Well, I guess it all starts with my father. Actually, he used to race circle track dirt cars, and when I was in high school, maybe not quite high school, but 11, 12 years old, he was building a Shelby Cobra replica, and he built the engine at our house in the garage, and that was my first time seeing an engine apart and being able to help him and just figure out how the pieces go together. Why does it work? How does an engine work? So that's really where it started for me. And after that, I really developed a lot of interest in science and math. And that followed me through all my schooling growing up. And then I was going to go and get a mechanical engineering degree in college. I actually got accepted to college. And my dad knew the guys at 422 Motorsports, and they're outside of Philadelphia, PA. And he said, they're looking for somebody to help assemble engines. Maybe try that for a year and see how that goes. And if you don't like it, you can always go to college and do that deal. So I went there, and it was all over after that. I started with them maybe 2005. I graduated 2004. And I was there for about 6 years building the engines. And that's when I started. That's when I was introduced to Keith, is when I worked there. And I drove one of the team's race cars, and I won a championship 2007. And then I raced until maybe 2012 when I left there. And then got the job working for Ray Barton Race Engines as a engine room assistant to the head engine builder that was there at the time. And I think I was there for about 13 years. And towards the end, I was running the assembly room and running the honing department for them, and learned a lot over the time.
Wow, and you get to work with a genuine legend in Ray Barton, who has been a guest on Hidden Horsepower. Guys, you can check out that episode down there. We had David and Ray Barton together. That was one of the favorites of the fans out there. So obviously a go-getter, right? Go-getter, young person, wanted to learn, got involved. You went to Ray Barton, you learned everything, cylinder surface, obviously, in your, right in the wheelhouse for Hidden Horsepower. But then ending up with your own shop, there's a big jump. Take us there.
Yes. Well, it started, I was always working on stuff even back in 2008. I'd kind of do a job here and there. All along, I always wanted to have my own business. Even when I was, in high school, when I was like 17 years old, I was like, I want to own my own business one day. But getting there is the hard part. So I would do little things here and there on the side, nothing really serious. And then probably I'd say about 9 years ago, I started to get more serious about it. And then finally established, I believe it was in 2021, officially established. I was working a full-time job and then trying to do my side hustle in the evenings, which really turned into about 2 full-time jobs. And it was just time make a decision. You know, do I really want to get serious and do this, or do I want to just kind of be floating around and, you know, working full time somewhere and then doing my thing on the side? And it was time. It was time to make the leap. You know, I built up a clientele over the years. I built up my machines and my shop, and it was always the end goal, but it was finding the right time to do it is always a difficult decision, because, you know, you got that guaranteed paycheck, and then it's like, well, I'm going to go do this on my own. It's like, well, you send an invoice out, you might get paid tomorrow. You might get paid 4 months from now. And some guys have a lot of trouble. You might not ever get paid, but you try not to have those kind of customers. But, you know, it's a big learning experience.
Keith, jump in with a question for Jay.
Yeah, that's like I say, that's kind of a scary thing when you're, you know, you go from that weekly paycheck that you can kind of count on, you know how to pay your bills, you know how to do all that, and then all of a sudden you're out in the, we'll say you're out in the ocean paddling, you're going, oh geez, how long can I tread this water? Yeah, and hope they pay the bills. Now, like say for us, you know, we've got August Cedar Strand, and if anybody's ever met August, you know, the man's 6'7", 400 pounds, you know, he's like our collection agent. You know, you just walk August through the door and say, hey, you owe me money. You know, it's not a problem. Yeah. So, but
I was wondering, where's this going?
Yeah.
Now I know.
Now you know. I mean, August just, you know, he just gives that, hey, you know, you owe me money. You know, so,
help the judge find his wallet.
Exactly. You know? But no, I can see that difficulty. But, you know, what's been the biggest challenge? I mean, obviously, you know, finding a business, finding a place, getting your equipment moved in, you know, obviously you made the mental change, you know, decision, I'm going to do this. What was the next big challenge? Finding a place, finding, you know, the money, you know, what was the next big step for you?
Yeah. Next big step after saying like, okay, this is something I want to do. The next big step would be, I guess, you know, you gotta acquire the knowledge. You can't just say, I want to do this, and boom, you go and do it. You know, it takes time to build up a clientele and, you know, be able to show that this is my background. These are the things I've done. These are the people that I've worked for. I have certain knowledge in some areas, always learning, of course, but, you know, people need to trust you before they're going to spend money with you as far as, you know, building an engine, because it's a big investment. But focusing on the clientele, you know, like I kind of worked into it slow, which worked in my benefit so far, that I knew a lot of people that I used to race with. And the first shop that I worked for, when they closed their doors, everybody retired. It was kind of a specialty deal because they mainly focused in the Ford FE engines. So a lot of those guys that were customers of that shop ended up coming over to me because they didn't have anywhere else to go, and I had assembled all of their engines previously, so they trusted me. So that was a big help there. And then I'm always looking for machines, for tools, and at first I didn't have a building to put anything, so everything had to be in storage. And I would find a piece of equipment in Kansas or another one in Arizona, and I'd purchase it for a good deal and have it shipped. And then literally for 2 years I had things in storage until I had enough money saved up to be able to put a down payment on having a building built. And that was also another struggle. We had to find a place to build a building because I didn't want to do commercial property. And so we ended up finding a home on a couple acres, and it was zoned in a way that I could run a business out on my personal property. So we bought the home, and then we gained a little bit of equity in it while I was acquiring machines, and then I was able to secure a loan, and then we built a building. I mean, originally it had a detached garage. It was only 600 square feet, but we put a large addition onto it now. And, you know, it's not large compared to a lot of shops, but I'm about a 3,000 square foot shop now.
Oh, very
nice.
That's nice. So
we might have some photographs of all of this coming soon. Very possibly. So
Yeah.
continue, Keith.
So, like I say, the stuff that you and I worked on a lot in the past has been kind of, I'll call it big rev, drag race stuff, shootout type stuff. But, again, through projects you're working on, you kind of mentioned the FE thing. And I know a lot of the FE guys from different levels are all kind of gravitating or are gravitating your way. Do you want to say that you're kind of specializing in the FE, or are you kind of doing a little bit of everything?
I do a little bit of everything. I mean, there are quite a bit of FEs. Yeah, that's true. Probably have like 6 or 7 of them here in the building right now. But I pretty well do anything. I don't try to box myself into one type of engine, but I do a lot of Fords, big block, small block, FEs, 385 series, Windsors, Clevelands. I do big block Chevys. I do stuff bracket race, heads up, like Comp Eliminator, Australian Pro Stock, that kind of stuff. I got one customer that runs the heads up stuff. Do some truck pull stuff, some mud drag. So it's kind of all over the place. Even have a circle track customer too.
Outstanding. If we, like I said, we get you into some old antique stuff, we'll get you a full circle here. Maybe some old airplane engines. So, another thing, just kind of like I said, you and I, we've worked a lot on different ring packs, a lot on that, but I know you've also embraced a lot of the technology, looking at the stuff, like Ben from EFIU and Billy Godbold and stuff that we've worked on, myself and Lake and the rest of the team, on bore finishes stuff. And I know that you've really embraced that. Do you see that being a big benefit for you? You see, those things helping to elevate your game from everybody else?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Because if you want to do something and make it better, if you can't measure it and see what you're doing, then you can't make it better. You're just guessing. You might be able to hone something a little different, and it's like, oh, okay, we're going to run on the dyno. It got better. Well, what did we do different? I don't know. I mean, you have to be able to quantify what you're doing. And a big thing for me is making a database of what the cylinder was when it left the shop versus how long it ran and what it looks like when it comes back, so I can change my process to maybe make it better for longevity, or maybe we want to try making it better for a limited amount of time, depending on what the engine's going to be doing.
Excellent.
Interesting. And I just want to, before we get too far out, there's the outside of the shop for everybody that is audio only. I apologize, but it's the outside of an amazing business. Of course, beautiful, exactly as I would expect it to be. Jay, looks like I could have a meal off the floor. That's what I like. Not everybody's too into that, but I am. And just some of the great pieces of work that you guys have put in over there at Zolko Racing Engines. Good job. Great presentation. Right. And everybody on audio only, you can always go to the YouTube channel, subscribe, click the bell, and see some of these visuals that we are now adding on the show. Are you one of those guys, Keith, that you like your engine shop to be like pristine?
I like organization. I like a nice, clean shop. Though I will say I've been in some amazing places that built some great engines, great power that you walk into going, wow, 160-watt light bulb. And I swear they haven't changed the grease in 40 years, but they did some amazing stuff. So I don't want to throw too many stones, but yeah, I like a nice, clean, organized place. Jay's place is beautiful. I remember going into a shop in Texas, a guy named Hans Fustel, a great guy. And Hans's shop is so well lit, so clean, so white. Like the old song, so it's so bright, I got to wear shades. That's one of the cleanest, brightest shops I've ever been into.
Jay, go ahead.
It definitely is a personal preference. I've worked in all different types of situations, and I prefer the brightness and the cleanliness. And everybody, when I was building the building, they're like, oh, why do you want to do that to the floor and spend that much money? You're just gonna roll engine stands across it and drive on it and scratch it up. Well, yeah, that may be, but it cleans up so much easier, and it looks professional. When people come in, there has to be a little bit of a wow factor as far as like, okay, if he cares this much about his floor, he's going to care about my engine.
That's how I work. I know not everybody does. Not everybody does. And I'm not demeaning anybody, because I agree, Keith, there's a lot of situations like that. Like, it doesn't matter, right? but that's how I operate as well. Then again, having a dad who was a Marine Corps drill instructor who is obviously obsessive compulsive about anything, you would make sense there. Go back and build upon the cataloging cylinder surface prior to and then post, so you can learn. How do you do that? We talk a lot about the profilometer on this show and Lake, and there's a lot of new technology to visualize those numbers, to take them from numbers and make them a picture. And we've really been on that for a couple of years now. What technology are you using to keep those catalogs, like when an engine comes back, where it ended up as opposed to where it started?
So I have a whole filing system, and I use the TraceBoss Plus software with the hatch view built into it. So every customer has a folder, and then the folder is dated, and it'll have other notes in there with bore size and things like that. I use a Sun and CK10, so I'm limited with pulley ratio. So I have, if I honed it and I wanted this certain crosshatch angle, I note the pulleys and stuff like that, so I can duplicate everything I had. But it gets, basically after a final hone, it'll get documented with pictures of every single cylinder, multiple measurements in each bore, and then when it comes back for a freshen up, it'll get the same treatment, and then it goes in another file, after run, 2023 season, something like that, maybe how many passes it has on it. And before we had all that, it was basically just writing stuff down in notebooks and on paper, and putting it in the customer's file. It was literally like paperwork instead of being all digital. And you're just writing down what you can see on the profilometer screen versus being able to pull that graph up and save it. You can actually look at a graph now rather than just looking at a page book full of numbers. So that made a massive improvement, and it saved a lot of time too.
Keith, that's like reaffirmation of everything that we've been working on, you and Lake and, Mark Malberg, and everything that everybody's been talking about now for 3 years is just got kicked back. That's got to be pretty rewarding.
Absolutely. This stuff is just so, the technology, this is going to sound silly. I mean, it's like a lot of guys have it on a laptop. How about, I got it on a tablet, it's just on a pad. It's a little bright in here. You can't quite see it, but having this level of technology, having the ability to recall that data, look at that data. Let's change this here real quick.
Yeah. Put that right up to the screen.
Yeah. Let's get her.
Unless
okay.
It's top secret. That's not like Greg Anderson's tone,
so
is it?
There we go. To have TraceBoss available to you, and it's available to everybody. We're taking that profilometer and we are unlocking the potential. I just had a customer earlier today that he bought TraceBoss. He has been struggling with getting his engines really good, taking it to that next level. And keeping in mind, this guy's building, these are natural gas powered generator engines. They're used for a pump. And he's been struggling, and the guy's sharp. He knows his stuff, but he made the investment. He's done some work on the hone, but he bought TraceBoss, and he's worked with ourselves. He's worked with Mark, looking at all the potentials, all the parameters this has to offer. I mean, because, we've got the screens, we've got all the setup functions, but now we can go in. What do I want to look at? What series of parameters do I want to look at? There's so many options. It's literally taking, the $2,000 machine and taking it to the level of being a $10,000 machine, that you've got so much more. And he went in and really started looking at his numbers, looking at his material ratio curves, and called me today to tell me he's cut his blow by numbers in half, which is huge on these engines, and just simply working the bore finish. He thought he's had a profilometer, he's worked with the numbers, but TraceBoss, letting him have the visual, letting him see the curve, letting him see the material ratio numbers, the flatness of the curve is just completely changed his game. And he's just ecstatic. So again, I'm not trying to sit here and sound like I'm trying to sell this all day, but this takes a really important piece of equipment and just takes it to a whole nother level for not a lot of money in the big picture of things.
Jay, build on that. And it is a commercial in that, both of you guys want people to have engines that seal. right? Like that's why we're talking about it. It's a means to an ends, and the ends is to make power and unlock hidden horsepower. Expand a little bit on that, Jay.
Yeah, that was pretty well said. I mean, I recall when I was at Ray's place, and I think he might have been one of the first few guys to get the whole system from Total Seal, and Lake came out himself and hand delivered it, and I worked with Lake that day, and it was an eye opener. I mean, we had stuff that we measured reading off. We had like an SJ301, which basically is the same thing. It just has a printer attached to the profilometer, and you can print the graph out. And we had numbers on there that we'd hone to. Every cylinder was awesome, looking at going by the numbers. We put trace boss in, and it was like, wow, it's not even where we think we are. It wasn't even, it was like, I don't know how it's possible you could have the same numbers, but a totally different look. I know how it's possible, but it was just an eye opener. And literally, like that evening, I called Keith and I said, "Hey, I gotta have this for myself." I don't know if he remembers that.
I do. I remember that. We spent quite a bit of time on the phone.
Yeah. So it was absolutely amazing. I mean, it was like you had the profilometer. We had it originally, and we were using it, and it's like, yeah, this is great. We're doing everything as good, as perfect as it can be. And then when it's funny when you look at something from a different angle, how different it really can be. And it's like a whole nother door that you didn't even know was there.
Awesome. No, it's awesome to guys. I've heard Lake Speed talk about this a lot over the many episodes of Hidden Horsepower and the Engine Performance Expo, and to hear it now coming back, it's just great stuff. Keith, jump in with another question for Jay.
So Jay, I mean, of the engine programs that you've been involved with, and from the at 422, Ray's Place, the stuff you're working on, just say which one's trip your trigger. What thing have you worked on that just man, I was so pleased to be involved with that, and look at the power we made, and we went out and we did this. What's that shining star in your history?
I would say being involved with the Hemi Superstock stuff and all the copos and all the really high-end super trick deal, that was pretty cool. But I think for myself would probably be the heads up program that I'm involved with Leonard Long. He's the owner of G-Force Transmissions, and we do a pretty wicked small block Ford for him. I think I've been building his engines for the last 8 years, and I believe in that class he's won 6 championships, maybe. I think 6 championships. I don't think he won 7, but we're going to try for this year again. But the heads up naturally aspirated, high winding, 400-inch motors, I love that stuff. And his program in particular, because I'm free to use my own ideas and do what I want to try, basically.
Wow, that's cool, and that's a hot topic, right? What series does that run in? Because we talk NHRA Pro Stock, and it's been troubling or a bummer to hear less and less ability to do exactly what you just said. Come up with ideas and use them and try them, all in the name of level competition and cost cutting, of course. And so I guess I understand at some level, and the competition has been great. That having been said, the engine builder wants to be creative, and you seem to be able to. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so he runs NMCA, and the class is NA10.5. So they have to run a true 10.5-inch wide tire, no W, and it has to be bias ply. And you can run sticker automatic, and they have different weights. The car has to weigh so much based on your cubic inch and engine combination. So, different engine combinations carry more of a weight penalty. Cylinder head style, port location, valve location, that kind of stuff carries a weight penalty. But yes, being able, what I enjoy most, I guess, is the challenge. So mostly a challenge against other engine builders that are very intelligent, and uh, just being able to challenge myself and say, okay, we're here. What can we do to be better? It's always trying to better yourself, basically. And, sometimes you try an idea and you go backwards, but that's all part of learning. And then sometimes you get an idea that uh, maybe we're going to hone a block this way, and we try it and it didn't work. Well, then maybe Keith comes out with another ring or a different coating or something, and it's like, well, maybe we'll go back and try that again. Maybe we weren't that far off. Maybe we just didn't have the right combination at the time. So it's always, just because something didn't work a few years ago doesn't mean it won't work again. So you're always constantly chasing every little percentage of horsepower you can.
Keith?
And I love that you said that, because I've got people, customers out there that have, like you say, they're all, I hate to say the word unwilling, but they're hesitant to go back and revisit something they tried 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Technology's moved forward. A lot of things are different now than they were back then. I mean, from the cylinder blocks, the materials, how we hone, trace boss, coatings, oils, to go back and revisit that. I have guys that, oh, yeah, we did that, didn't work, didn't do, this, and you kind of like, well, you really kind of ought to look at it again now. We've got better technology. We've got, we've done better since that point in time. Maybe there's something there for you. And I love that, that Jay's willing to go back and, look at something we tried 3 or 4 years ago that maybe wasn't the thing then, but it's the thing now. And it's simply because, technology's moved forward. I've done, from a ring point of view, I've done rings that I'll just call O2 thin. If you'd asked me 10 years ago, would that ring survive? Would it work? Would it be the way to go? And I'm like, man, I don't know. That thing, there's not a lot of material there. You do anything wrong, you're going to kill it. Well, guess what? I've got better materials to make the part from now. So what I had as far as access to materials back then is now much wider than it used to be. And I can make that part out of a better part of, a better piece of material. And guess what? It will handle the stupid stuff now. Now you can do silly things to it and not hurt it. Guess what? It makes more power. It holds up better. It lasts longer. So I love, the willingness and the openness to try things that maybe didn't kind of work out or maybe failed back in the past, but you know what? We can do better.
Jay, where's the next frontier? We've spoken a lot about cylinder hones. We've talked about surfaces, ring seal. Obviously, feel free to expand upon that. But as you use your creativity, where do you think the next wave might be?
That's a good question. For me, as far as my shop goes, I need to get more. I want to get more equipment. I'd like to move into some CNC stuff, but yeah, as far as the industry goes, I think the gasoline engine is going to be around for quite a while yet, at least my generation and probably most of my daughters. But, we'll have to see where that goes. I think racing is pretty strong right now. It's tough with inflation, but that's everywhere. That's just not the parts we buy. That's everything we buy. So, yeah, I think racing is going to be around for a while, and I'm going to continue to invest into it.
Keith?
Outstanding. So do you see more, like I say, we're always working on the bottom end, rotating assemblies, all that. Do you see, cylinder head or camshaft or the culmination of all to be the next thing that you want to work on? It's like, money, no object kind of thing. I know you'd have, 280 current dynos and probably a couple of spintrons and, what part, what is the next thing you want to help try to develop?
Probably I'd say cylinder heads, valve train. I just recently had a flow bench made, so I'm getting into that now. I used to do, I do some porting. I'm not a professional head porter by any means at all, but I would basically have, areas that I would go off of. But I never had a way to physically quantify anything, if that makes sense. And I basically had a flow bench made so I could go in there and just measure airspeed, just for my own curiosity to see where the air is moving and try to figure out how it's moving. And, that's where my focus is now. It's like a new new tool for me to work with. I've had the profilometer, been using profilometer and honing and all that stuff for probably, I don't know, 15 years now, and I'm still focused on honing pretty hard. This year, I think I've tried so many different diamonds, and I've tried all different manufacturers' diamonds, different grits, different bonds, just chasing a couple of different things, and none of it might matter, or I might really find something, and I think I'm on to something pretty good. But I'm not ready to say anything really about it yet. But
Share it with us, Jay.
Oh man, this whole show is about sharing information.
No. You gotta have secrets.
No, I don't mean to hold back yet but I don't know if it's going to work or not. We're playing with different roughing stones as far as the bond goes, and the concentration of the grit goes, and how the finished stone mates with the roughing stone is something I'm really focused on right now. The thing is with it seems, and now Keith might have more to say on this than me, but with the larger ring, with something that's like I call 036 a larger ring, but with 036 and larger, it doesn't seem to be overly critical. It's still critical, but not like if you had like an 023 or smaller ring as far as getting that to seal. It seems like when you get into the 20s or the low 20s in the ring, the hone becomes ultra sensitive, at least from what I've seen. You can have too wide of a valley, if that makes any sense. Like if you don't have the right grit abrasive, you could cut a valley that's too wide, and it seems like it over oils the ring and it doesn't want to seal. But I've been working really hard on that small ring, and I think I got it pretty good now. But I don't know if Keith has anything to add for that.
Oh, no, absolutely. I agree with you. The smaller the ring, the smaller the contact patch areas. We've got less unit pressure. All of those things make it more difficult. One of the other things we have to look at, and we talk about, surface finish numbers, and the numbers just part of the picture. And one of the things that people don't really look at a lot, but Trace Boss helps to unlock this stuff, is what we'll call waviness, the frequency. How wavy is the cylinder surface? And this is a big part of it. We talk about straight and round, trying to get good bores. Well, we get fooled into thinking we're really doing a great job when we don't have the tools that'll quantify that data. Like Jay just said, once you have the tools and you can look at it and you go, geez, I'm not doing quite as good as I used to. It's like having, we say we got a really good straight round bore until we put a pad incometer in it and we go, well, no, the thing looks like a banana. It's not straight and round. And then we start looking at, the surface traces, and then we can start looking at, as Mark refers, the frequency and the waviness of that cylinder. The numbers came out great. You can have great numbers, but when you really start analyzing that surface and looking at the imperfections in that surface, that's the challenges that a thinner, lighter ring really faces when you're dealing with, big 5/64 rings and, moly coatings and things like that. You get away with a lot. You can get away with a whole lot, but you get down, as like Jay was saying, 0.5s, 0.6s, rings that have got, 2 millimeter radial dimensions, things like that. Let me tell you, man, Buster, your game better be on with that ring.
Yeah, that's very true. And try to minimize as many things as possible. You can only do so much, but I got a Sun and 8-stone diamond head, so that helps. I make my own deck plates, and I have CAD software on my computer, so I actually measure the actual cylinder head, and I model my deck plate after the cylinder head. And I can only check stuff with a bore gauge. I don't have access to a pad gauge, which would be nice. I know you can always send your stuff out and have it measured, but measuring with a bore gauge, I will map the cylinder out as far as what it looks like. Measure 3 or 4 different heights in the bore all the way around the diameter, make a spreadsheet, and then with the actual cylinder head and gasket bolted on, and then I'll put my deck plate on, and I'll do the same thing. And my deck plate's made in such a way that it'll measure within a tenth on the bore gauge, and that's not saying a whole lot because you don't really get the full picture. You're just measuring two little points, 4.5 inches apart or whatever it might be. But it's fairly accurate that way. I mean, as far as when the engine runs and you take it apart, you don't see any weird shadows or anything like that going on. One thing I can't do is hot hone. Everybody always says, well, why do you go through all the trouble? You spend so much money in the measuring equipment and the multi-stone head and all these different diamonds, and you make your own deck plate out of special, aluminum. And why do you do all that when it's just gonna change when it runs? What do you think it's doing when there's cylinder pressure in it? Well, it's like, yeah, it's gonna move. Obviously, yes, when you heat it up, it's gonna move. But for the heads up stuff, we chill the engines, so we maybe get them like 60 degrees water temperature. We leave the line, and at the end of the run, it's maybe like 120 degrees. So we got like a 60-degree delta on the spread, but I could only do so much, and whatever you can do, you try to be the best and the most accurate at it. And then, maybe if I could hot home, maybe we would get that extra CFM a blow by less, or half a CFM, whatever it might be worth. I've never done a back-to-back test, but right now I don't have that option, unfortunately, but maybe in the future.
It's, one of the things that I see a lot, Jay, is guys, hot honing was a big thing, and there's guys out there that still believe in it. I'll say this, go up to, West Side Machine in Boise, and, Nick Ferry, who, helped bring Elite to where they are with their engine program. Nick's still up there. He's doing his thing. That man hot hones everything. You bring a lawnmower in there, Nick's going to hot hone it. But a lot of guys have gotten away from it. Simply, it's pretty complicated. It's a lot. You love having 200-degree honing oil thrown on you, but not as many guys do, because the technology has moved forward. Like you said, 8-stone heads, better diamonds, better, everything's better. That there's not a lot of guys that do it. I think there's something there. I always have, but not as many shops do it as they used to do in the old days. But you look at some of the stuff that's happening in the OE levels, especially over in Europe, we talk about torque plating and doing all the things that you're doing is excellent. I mean, you're trying to make a torque plate that actually does what the head does. I can't tell you how many I've put on that I've checked. It's like, no, these are two totally different things. Check it from the top, put the head on, check it from the bottom. It's two different worlds. Trying to do these things, makes a big difference. But with the computer technology that's coming down the pipeline, they're starting to create what they call pattern honing. And they're purposely honing the cylinder out of round, out of shape. Their computer technology is there to say, okay, we're going to hone this screwed up bore that when it's actually at running temperature, it's actually straight and round. This is the next level of technology that's coming down the pipeline. Granted, I think it'll be years before it's available to the aftermarket world. It's simply, I can't even imagine the costs involved in that today. But it's the same, like you talked about, cylinder head, working with the flow bench, getting the flow numbers, the air speeds. I mean, the technology's out there now that's looking at the speeds throughout the port. What's it in the middle? What's it at the end? What's it at the bottom? They're actually looking at the speeds throughout the entire port. And again, it's these levels of technology that are going to advance this industry. Now, is that technology available to you or I at an affordable price yet? Not yet, but it will come in time.
So, Jay, we're coming down the stretch here. I definitely have to ask you your advice for the wave that's coming behind you. But we've heard a lot about what you've done and what you're doing. What would you like to do? If you could, throw your hat into the ring in any series, any style of racing, like what interests you? What challenge would you like to take on if you could get the opportunity to do it?
I would say probably anything that would be heads up or that has unlimited restrictions on engines, like like the pro stock stuff. You could pretty much, if you could dream it and you can make it happen, you can use it. And for me, it's kind of like my wife says, it's like it's like an artist painting a picture, I guess. So because sometimes a customer might say, well, I have this part and I want to use this and I want to do that. And it's like, well, no, you probably don't want to do that necessarily, because it might ruin the rest of the balance of the engine, as far as what we're trying to achieve. And, she's like, well, that really upsets you when somebody else wants to change something. And she's like, it's like your artwork, you know, it's something you really take pride in. And anything that I could focus and challenge myself and not really be necessarily restricted by a rule book, that's where I'd want to be. So, and then, you know, even certain classes that you have to abide by a rule book, that's also a challenge there too, because, you know, you got to read every line and you got to find that gray area and you got to ride it as hard as you can for any kind of an advantage. So that itself is a challenge too. But without having to work in a framework, I mean, any heads up class like like the NMCA 10.5 stuff, you could pretty much run anything you want. You still get penalized for it, but it's still a challenge. You know, comp eliminator would be a challenge, pro stock would be a challenge, any of the big name classes. And I prefer naturally aspirated stuff. I've done some forced induction stuff, and I don't mind it. But at heart, I'm an NA guy, be it fuel injection or carburetor, either one.
That makes a lot of sense to me, Keith.
Yeah, I love the NA thing. I mean, people want to shoot me for what I'm about to say. I am a pro stock guy. I've loved pro stock since, you know, before I knew it was pro stock. It's like, hey, what's that, Dad? But I would love to see a small block. I love the 400-inch stuff. I love twist it up, let it fly. It would create parity between us, the Aussies, you know, so many other classes. Look at Joe. Oh, man. People are going to want to shoot me. But
Australian pro stock, you're basically saying we should go to Australian pro stock rules. I
want over here. I want to see 64 cars trying to make a 16-car field. I love looking at the old, you know, some of the old stuff that's on NHRA, looking at some of the old races, and I'm looking at the thing. It's like, look at the names that didn't get in.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, you know, I'd love to see those days again. I mean, it's fantastic. I love it. But to see that many cars show up to a field trying to get in the door, I'm like, going, oh, let's see, Bob Glidden, number 17.
Well, what are they going to run though? So like, it just comes back to that. Like what kind of ET, like the baddest, 358, 400 cubic inches you want, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what they run 400 down there.
Right. Yeah. So, you know, I don't know. We're backing up then.
Yeah. Oh, we are. But there's no doubt. There's no doubt. But I'll say this, as much as I love mountain motor pro stock racing, you know, I do love the 500s. I love the 400s. I just, you know, let it whine. I want to hear RPM, man. I want to hear that thing scream.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I'm the same way. And NMCA tried to have a class a few years ago. I think it was like Dart Pro Stock or something like that. I think it was sponsored by Dart. It only went for a couple of seasons because I don't think they had a lot of interest, and it was kind of a lower car count. But it was, you know, it was 400-inch. And I don't remember if it was stick shift only, but it was basically like a 400-inch pro stock class. You're allowed tube chassis deal. I don't remember what the weight limit was, but they were running 7.0s with it. We had Leonard Long had a car that I think we were going to try to run in it. He's got a tube chassis car, but he used to run that in. He used to race NHRA. I forget what class. Might have been C Ultra or something. But he's been 720s in that, and we were going to modify that to work with the dark class, but it just didn't gain enough interest. I mean, everything right now is really focused on the power adder stuff because it's easier, it's costs less money, and it's easy to make horsepower. So that's where a lot of the focus is right now. Everybody wants the turbo kit, blower kit, you know.
Yep.
There's got to be a pinnacle of naturally aspirated racing. Naturally aspirated must continue to exist somewhere, somehow. And I get it. I understand. I love our great friends with the Australian Pro Stockers and, you know, the Tucker family, of course, Jason Grima. Those guys doing a great job bringing their car over in Comp Eliminator. And it's neat, but I want to go faster. That's all.
I get it.
You know, and the 10.5 rev limiter, right? It's a necessary evil. Yeah. But I'm with you. I love the sound of unlimited RPM. Like we're on the same page there. Unlimited RPM. All right. Final question, Keith. You got one before I ask about Jay's advice for the next wave coming behind him. Final question.
Where's my next order, dude? I need to sell something today. Yeah.
Sell,
No.
sell, sell,
I,
sell.
I see that you got a mountain of stuff back there. No, I'm just giving Jay a hard time. So what's
Hey,
the
there we go.
what's the next thing? I mean, we're working on FEs, or what's the next project that you haven't started on yet?
Next project I haven't started on would be we got a few small block Fords going on. We have, I think, 3 FEs. One, yeah, one of those is actually gonna be a pretty cool project. It's gonna be a billet headed candid valve FE dry sump bracket deal. Trying to, I think it's going into a Falcon, and the customer really hasn't made up his mind. Am I going to Falcon or a Mustang? So we're going to try to put that car in the 7s with an FE, naturally aspirated. And what else we got? We got truck pull 460 going together. Got a Hemi, all aluminum Hemi bracket deal. So a bunch of projects going on.
Very cool.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. Each episode of Hidden Horsepower acknowledges the fact that, this is a very challenging industry, and any advice that you can give the next you who is, maybe in his teens, taking apart his mom's toaster to figure out how it works. Who knows? Any advice that you could give those people to figure it out a little quicker, keep them interested, maybe make it not quite as brutal and difficult as it was for you along the way, what would it be?
I guess I would have to say math helps. Math is universal language. It goes a long way. So if you want to be able to measure and figure out how things work, you have to understand a lot of times how that part is designed to be able to know why it broke maybe, or why you should use something here versus there. So math is a big one. So if you could take extra math classes, or just maybe read a book in the evening on your own time, that is a big help. Another big help is figuring out a goal. Like if this is an industry, a field you want to get into, set goals for yourself and be disciplined. So if you want to start your own business, figure out, okay, what do I want to do? Do I need to go work for somebody to figure out what that means? What the parts industry looks like, what the customer relation side of it looks like. Build your clientele, get a group of people going, figure out what shops are using what machines, so you can kind of say like, okay, this machine works here, this machine doesn't work. And that gives you a good direction of what you want to do. But definitely read up on some math, set goals for yourself, and be disciplined. Meet those goals. Don't go astray. Say you're saving up some money because you want to buy this certain machine, and it's like, oh, I got a little bit of money here. I'm gonna go and buy some parts for my car. I'm gonna build my own engine or something like that. Invest in yourself, basically, because that'll come back tenfold in the end.
I love that. That
Great
is
advice.
great. That is great. You had me until you said pick up a book, and then it was just like, forget it. Do something else. No,
books on tape. Books on tape.
You can't learn math on tape.
No, that's true.
I mean, maybe you can, but I don't think you can. Jay, this has been amazing. I appreciate you coming on the show. A great episode and different angle on Hidden Horsepower. I wish you the best of luck, obviously, and it's been illuminating to see what you're doing out there. Tell everybody, if they want to check out your shop or they want to get a hold of you, where they can do that.
Right now, I'm currently working on getting a website, social media set up dedicated for the shop. Right now, the best way to get a hold of me is through my phone number, and that is 717-801-8211.
Excellent.
Outstanding.
Outstanding. All right. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for spending the time with us on Hidden Horsepower, and we wish you continued good luck, and I apologize in advance for whatever Keith does next.
I just want to say thanks, Jay. I appreciate it more than I can tell you, man. Really, you and I have been trying to put this together for a little while, and just the craziness of this world and getting all the cylinders to line up at the same time. And again, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day.
Yeah, well, thanks for the invite, and it really means a lot that you actually came to me and asked me to be on the show. I was pretty blown away and pretty surprised. So yeah, it was a little beside myself. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, no, it's great. It's been great. It's been a great
Great to
episode.
have you.
Great episode, Jay. It's it's good to see that there's something coming. Like like those of us who love the internal combustion engine one way or another are, we're going to have options 10 years from now. So good job. Keep it going.
It's important. It's important.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jay.
Thanks, Jay.
Jay Zolko Race Engines, and my goodness, Keith, what a great episode. Kid's obvious kid. He's 38, but he's got a plan. He's executed his plan. He is, getting the right equipment. He's not cutting corners. He's got a beautiful shop. He's got a lot going on.
Yeah, he does. He really does. He's worked with guys that have showed him, hey, this is how you do it. This is the model per se. Have a great presentation, deliver. We'll say, how do you always say, under promise, over deliver, build a great piece, deliver it on time, get paid, wash, rinse, repeat. And Jay's just great. Because the bottom line, talking about myself earlier, the OG, hey guys, there's a lot of great shops and a lot of great guys. They're retiring out. And we need guys like Jay coming up that are gonna pick up that gauntlet and run with it, or there won't be the ability to have these race engines done. We'll all be racing crate engines because that's all there will be. And we all know that's boring as hell. So we've got to keep these guys coming up. So seek them out, pay the bill, go racing, have a good time, because we got to keep these guys coming. Otherwise, there'll be no racing industry.
That is so true. Absolutely true. Way to go, Keith Jones, Director of Technical Sales at Total Seal Piston Rings. If someone has a question for you, if they want to buy some rings, if they've got a project they're working on, we always say make you guys your first call, not the last call, because you really want to start from the rings. How do they get a hold of you guys?
Just reach us, get a hold of us. I mean, the toll free, like Jay said, our number is 800-874-2753. You can go to our website, totalseal.com. A lot of great information there. You can check us out on our YouTube channel. A lot of great information there. Lake's just stockpiled that thing full of great information. Or, just email us. I mean, there's more than me here. There's a whole team of great guys. Go to the website, pick your guy that, hey, that guy looks okay. Reach out to us however you want, and we'll help you in any way we can.
And if you have questions for the Hidden Horsepower crew, we've already decided with Lake, we're going to do a little more Q&A this year and in the future. If you got a question, send Keith an email and just put Hidden Horsepower question up there in the comment section or in the subject line, and we'll address it, because there are a lot of questions that people have, FAQs, right? And we put it out there on the air, and next thing you know, we advance the ball for everybody. Keith, great job as usual.
Appreciate it. And the same to you, Joe. I mean, you are, we'll say, you're what make the rest of us look good.
Oh, thank you so much. That's not true. That's not true. I'm excited. Project Pontiac is advancing, by the way.
I was just going to ask you. I talked to Gary this morning. I didn't get a chance to bring it up. He had just started off for lunch, and he's ordering parts. And how this goes. I mean, we're multitasking. How is Project Pontiac?
Well, he's got cylinder heads. He's got the manifold. We've got all the hard parts are now in Emporia, Kansas. We have one more thing to do, and that is camshaft selection. We're going to leave that up to Gary, and we're going to get the blessing from Mr. Billy Godbold, and it is just amazing. Yeah, I was going to do it, but I'm glad you did it. Right? That's exactly what we want. And it's so crazy over there on the NHRA side of the universe. When I go to work, everybody is asking about Project Pontiac, which is just a super street car. But the idea that, the radio guy can build a super street car and go racing at an NHRA national event with an old bracket car, that seems to be intriguing to a lot of people. So I appreciate people wanting to follow the story, and we'll see how it goes.
Outstanding. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. All right, Keith, see you next time.
See you guys. See everybody. Have a good one.
He is Keith Jones, the Director of Technical Sales for Total Seal Piston Rings. I'm Joe Castello. You can follow me, WFO Joe, on X, on Instagram. I'm out there at the NHRA Drag Racing Series on a regular basis, part of the track announcing team. Absolutely love this stuff. I love doing the Engine Performance Expo and working with the guys at Total Seal Piston Rings on Hidden Horsepower. We get to meet so many interesting people like Jay. Jay was tremendous on this episode. Remember, subscribe, click the bell, whether you're listening to the audio-only podcast or the new Hidden Horsepower-only YouTube channel. Some of the episodes got over 30,000 views already. It is amazing, and we're going to start doing more video. And again, as I said, I apologize for all of this. I come from an audio only background, but this is where everything is going. And honestly, it was great to see Jay and Jay's shop and Keith and his incredible system of organization over there and the Eddie Hill picture in the background. It all made the episode. Comments in the comment section right down there. Subscribe, click the bell. Never miss an episode of Hidden Horsepower. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you next time.